Sorting through the many perspectives takes work. The seemingly never-ending opinions can get noisy. But what if we choose to change our vantage point? Think bigger, dig deeper, change the dialogue. Discovering the truth above it all. It's time to elevate the conversation.
So good morning, everybody, again. For if you walked in late, you didn't hear my name. We got a big crowd this service. I like it. My name is Zach. Like I said, I gave a message a couple weeks ago. I played drums, high school guys leader. And this week, we're doing a one-week series on bullying. So let's get right into the message. We're going to start off with a verse from Ephesians. This is Ephesians 2:10, and it says, "For we are God's masterpiece." Now, this is something we hear all of the time, whether it's from a coach, from a good friend, from a family member, someone important in our life, and we hear it in the Bible. Paul wrote this to fellow believers in his book, Ephesians, that he wrote in the New Testament, and he told them this, that we are God's masterpiece. And even if this is your first week here, you're still, figuring out the whole Jesus thing, if you want to be a part of a bunch of weird people, you'll still hear all the time, you are a masterpiece. And it's such a true thing. And when we hear it so often, we may interpret it as you are special, or you can be anything you want, or you're unique. So while we're reading our Bible, we may tend to breeze past it because we hear it so often. But let me ask you this. If we are all such beautiful masterpieces, then why do we tend to treat other people like trash? Or see people like trash? Because last I knew, masterpieces aren't typically treated poorly, right? Instead, they're treated with the utmost care and respect. We tend to say with our mouths that others are masterpieces, but our actions don't show that. Let's take the Mona Lisa, for example. We have a picture of her. Right here, you can see that there's a barrier around her. She has bulletproof glass. There's a climate-controlled setting, constant security, all for a painting made by some old dude with a beard a couple hundred years ago. Why all of this for a painting? Because it's a masterpiece. And masterpieces deserve the best possible care. But not everyone receives that care. And it's very obvious between people constantly arguing with one another, screaming at people to get our points across, belittling others to make ourselves feel good. When you stop and take a step back and look at all those problems, you see one big thing. The world is just mean. And the sad thing is, we've all gotten used to it. And I want you guys to answer this silently to yourselves. What are some things that we've just gotten used to that are just mean? And as you think about that thing, we know down in our hearts that those things aren't right. And yet we sit around and don't do anything about it. But a step in the right direction is naming what it is that we're seeing in front of us. And that thing is bullying. Now, bullying isn't a new concept or idea to us. I know each and every one of you have heard it in elementary school with all the bullying activities in middle school and high school. But what does bullying really mean? Well, the National Center Against Bullying defines bullying as this: an ongoing and deliberate misuse of power in relationships through repeated verbal, physical, and or social behavior that intends to cause physical, social, and or psychological harm. It can involve an individual or a group misusing their power or perceived power over one or more persons who feel unable to stop it from happening. So that was a lot of words. Let's go and let's reword it a little bit to make it a little more church friendly, right? We can define bullying as this: Bullying is when we repeatedly diminish the image of God in someone else with what we say, what we do, or how we behave. So in other words, bullying's a pretty big deal. And bullying doesn't just happen when we're in middle school and high school. I mean, we see adults bully each other each and every day in the real world, don't we? Especially in the last few years, except once you turn into an adult, you don't call it bullying anymore. In fact, to them, it's just a part of their normal everyday life. And I know everybody in here has experienced bullying in one of these three ways, and I want you guys to pay attention to these. The first way is bullying others. Some of us might be using bullying behavior towards others. We might be gossiping, mistreating, or intentionally harming other people in an effort to cover our own hurts, pains, or desires for control. The second way is being bullied by others. Some of us might be on the other side of the issue. We might be being bullied by someone else. We've been put down, excluded, or hurt by people for no reason at all. We feel misunderstood and devalued in ways that cut to the core of our ideas of being these so-called masterpieces. And the third way, being a bystander. Now, others of us may not be acting like a bully or being bullied, but we've been bystanders to bullying. We've watched as someone was mistreated at practice. We listened in as someone was spilling the tea that they didn't brew at the lunch table. We've laughed along while someone made fun of another person on TikTok. So we haven't necessarily been involved with the bullying firsthand. But when we see it happening, we don't do anything about it. This is probably the most common way bullying is experienced. And in a world full of bullying, we feel safe when we aren't the topic of discussion, when we're not the ones being bullied. So it's easier to sit back and let the bullying happen to someone else than to take the chance to step up, try to stop it, and then have that bullying directed towards us because we got involved. Both kids and adults are constantly experiencing one of these three types of bullying in their everyday life. We throw out rude comments or make rude captions towards others, either in person or on social media, without knowing what the full situation is. We hear rumors people are spreading about us on Snapchat or Instagram or TikTok, and it completely ruins our day. Throws off our whole vibe for the day. We scroll through feeds on social media and see rude and hate-filled videos about other people. And we leave a like on the video and scroll past it and say nothing. It's because bullying has become a part of the new normal. It's the new normal because we see it all the time. It feels like it is everywhere and it's never ending. And social media nowadays doesn't even let you get away from it because it is constantly in the palm of your hand. Every time you open up a new app, look at a new post, there is bullying everywhere. And bullying's become more and more normal. And as it becomes more normal, it becomes more accepted. So if we're all supposed to be these masterpieces, this just doesn't feel right. So do we just sit back and accept this? Or do we elevate the way we think about it? I mean, there's got to be another way we can live our lives, right? Thankfully, there is. And the answer is right in the Bible, a book called Romans, which was a letter written by Paul to the Christians living in Rome 2,000 years ago. Now, I talked about Paul in the beginning where he wrote one letter. In Ephesians, Paul writes a lot of letters throughout the New Testament. That's what most of the New Testament is written of. And to get an idea of what Rome was like back in the day, picture it as New York City or LA today. Everyone who was anyone was in Rome. If you were famous or popular back then, you were in Rome. That's where you were. It was the hub for everything. And the way the Romans behaved, lived, and interacted with one another shaped how the world experienced their day-to-day life. So Paul, knowing that there's Christians living in Rome, Paul writes a letter to them with some advice and encouragement on how to live their lives. So as we consider how bullying has become so normal in our world, I want you guys to really listen to and experience Paul's words personally. And let's think about how something that was written so long ago might be inviting us to experience a new way to live, like Jesus did. And in order to do that, things are going to look a little bit different this week. So instead of us just reading like a little snippet of a chapter with a couple verses, we're actually going to go ahead and read an entire section of Paul's letter. I know it sounds boring and you don't want to read because it's Sunday and it's the weekend and you're not in school, but it's going to be, we've got this. I know I don't like to read when I'm not in school, but we're going to get through this together. So all of you guys should have gotten one of these papers in the beginning when you were walking in. And we're going to read this whole thing together. And I really want you guys to just sit back and listen to what Paul wrote so many years ago and think about how it could relate to you today. After I read, I'm going to ask you guys a couple questions that you can answer to yourselves quietly and reflect on silently. If you have a thought pop up in your head, there's some pens laying around. You can write it right down on the paper or on an index card in the back. During this time, as we're reading this, I want you guys to pray. Pray about what Paul says and about the questions after I ask them. And really focus on everything he has to say. And see how these words might be speaking to you today. And if you're new here, first of all, I welcome you to Merge. I thank you guys for coming here this morning. This can still be beneficial to you. If you're still trying to figure out the whole Jesus thing, whether if it's for you or if it's not, the words Paul has written here can still be extremely beneficial to you guys. So first, let's pause. Everyone, let's take a deep breath. And let's get ourselves into a good mind space. If you have your phone or anything around you that might be a distraction, go ahead, just put it to the side and really focus on everything Paul has to say for the next few minutes. And so, dear brothers and sisters, I plead with you to give your bodies to God because of all he has done for you. Let them be a living and holy sacrifice, the kind he will find acceptable. This is truly the way to worship him. Don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect. Because of the privilege and authority God has given me, I give each of you this warning. Don't think that you are better than you really are. Be honest in your evaluation of yourselves, measuring yourselves by the faith God has given us. Just as our bodies have many parts, each part has a special function. So it is with Christ's body. We are many parts of one body, and we all belong to each other. In his grace, God has given us different gifts for doing certain things well. So if God has given you the ability to prophesy, speak out with as much faith as God has given you. If your gift is serving others, serve them well. If you are a teacher, teach well. If your gift is to encourage others, be encouraging. If it is giving, give generously. If God has given you leadership ability, take that responsibility seriously. And if you have a gift for showing kindness to others, do it gladly. Don't just pretend to love others. Really love them. Hate what is wrong and hold tightly to what is good. Love each other with genuine affection and take delight in honoring each other. Never be lazy, but work hard and serve the Lord enthusiastically. Rejoice in our confident hope. Be patient in trouble and keep on praying. When God's people are in need, be ready to help them. Always be eager to practice hospitality. Bless those who persecute you. Don't curse them. Pray that God will bless them. Be happy with those who are happy and weep with those who weep. Live in harmony with each other. Don't be too proud to enjoy the company of ordinary people, and don't think you know it all. Never pay back evil with more evil. Do things in such a way that everyone can see you are honorable. Do all that you can to live in peace with everyone. Dear friends, never take revenge. Leave that to the righteous anger of God, for the scriptures say, I will take revenge. I will pay them back, says the Lord. Instead, if your enemies are hungry, feed them. If they are thirsty, give them something to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals of shame on their heads. So now I'm going to ask you guys a couple questions, and during this time, just silently answer them to yourselves and really ask God what He has to say to you. So where have you seen bullying in life or society, but felt powerless to actually change it? What are some behaviors in society, like bullying, you find yourself participating in? What holds you back from behaving in a way that is more in line with what Paul talked about? How does bullying go against what Paul writes? And what alternatives does Paul offer? Whether you have bullied someone, been bullied, or been a bystander to bullying, how can you begin to overcome the evil of bullying by doing good this week? Now, one thing that makes us as human beings so unique is our ability to empathize with others. Empathy is understanding and feeling the feelings of someone else. If we want to do this, we can imagine what it's like to be in someone else's shoes. It's what makes books, movies, and TV shows so powerful. And when it comes to bullying, there may be nothing else that has more power to change our mind about bullying and the role we play in it than our ability to empathize with those who have been affected by it. Bullying is a big deal because people are a big deal. And when people are mistreated, talked down to, and cut down, it matters to God. And it should matter to us too. That's why we're talking about this today. Normal doesn't have to be okay. Expected doesn't mean acceptable. When you see value in others, you behave in the ways that solve bullying. And it all begins with acknowledging how valuable all people are. So let me just say it. Bullying is wrong. If you're behaving like a bully, there's good news. You're invited into a different way of treating others. You can choose to start behaving in ways that align with the value not only you, but other people have. Would you be willing to take the risk that Paul offers and contribute to creating a safe community, not only for yourself, but for other people? You are not just a bully. You are so much more than that. You are valuable. Other people are valuable too. When you choose to see both of those realities, you'll elevate the way you see and treat others. If you're being bullied, hear me when I say this. Being bullied is brutal. If you're being bullied, that does not reflect your true value. No matter what someone has said to you, how you've been made to feel, what thoughts constantly run through your head day in and day out because of bullying, I want you to hear me when I say this. You are someone who should be treated with incredible value because you are. Maybe it's time for you to ask someone for help. Maybe it's time to tell someone about how you're being bullied. Maybe it's time to refuse to believe that someone else's bullying behavior has anything to do with your value. I understand that taking a step like this can be complicated and confusing and scary. But I promise you, it is so worth it. God handcrafted each and every one of you. He created us in His own image. He made each of you so valuable. Because you are so valuable, you are worthy of being treated well by others. And so these next few minutes, I'm going to give you guys some time to pray and sit. We're going to bring the lights down and have some soft music playing. And maybe today's the day you decide to take that step and decide that now is the time to take a different approach. Maybe it's time, if you find yourself being a bully, maybe it's time you admit that, hey, not everything is okay. I need help. I am hurting. That's what each of us leaders are here for. It's what I'm here for. Clarissa, Amber, Pat, Katie, Ryan. I hope I speak on behalf of all of them when I say this. We love you guys so much. During these next few minutes, as I pray for you guys and as you guys pray for yourselves, if you feel led to go and ask a leader for help, please do so. We are all here to help you guys. If it wasn't for all of you guys being here, we wouldn't be here. We are here to help you guys. We are not here to judge you or tell you how you're feeling isn't valid. We are here to help you guys. So I'm going to have Ryan bring the lights down. And if Katie wants to start the music, just take these next few minutes and pray with me. Heavenly Father, I thank you for each and every person in this room today, God. God, thank you for for making us masterpieces. God, I thank you for making us so, so valuable and taking the time to knit each and every one of us together. God, I pray that you remind everybody in here, students and leaders alike, just how valuable we are and how loved we are because of you. God, in today's world, bullying is such a common thing to see. And I pray that if there are any students in this room today, God, I pray that if there are any of them who are being bullied and they find themselves being bullied, God, I pray for them. It is not an easy thing to deal with, to be constantly belittled or to be made fun of or just put down. God, I pray that you comfort them. And I pray that if today is that day to take that step forward to admit, hey, I need help. God, I pray that you give them the courage to take that step and to say to a leader that they trust, say, hey, I need help. God, I pray if there are any students in here who may be a bully, God, I pray for them. Because that's not who they are. They might seem perfectly fine on the outside, but inside, God, there is a battle going on that we might not know about. There may be things at home that are happening that we don't know about. God, I pray that you be with them. You open their eyes to experience this new reality that they have with you. I pray that you allow them to not only see the value of others, but to see how valuable they are themselves. God, I pray that you allow them to love both others and to love themselves, God. And I pray that you show them how much you love them. And God, I pray for all of the bystanders who might be in here, because not every student is going to be bullied or being bullied. Some of them sit back and watch it and let it happen. God, I pray that you give them the courage that they need to step up and say to someone, hey, what you're doing is not okay. You are hurting them. Whether that is in person or it's on social media, God, I pray you give them the strength and the courage to stand up and say no. I know it's not easy, and I know it's scary to stand up to somebody who can be so hurtful and tell them to stop. But God, I pray for strength. And I pray for a hedge of protection over each and every person in this room, God. This is a heavier topic to talk about, and for some people, depending on what steps they take this week, it might leave them vulnerable. And God, I pray a hedge of protection over them. Keep them safe from the enemy. Allow them to remember how valuable and how loved they are. God, I pray you remind them that all of us leaders are here because of how much we love them. I know I said it before, but I want them to hear it again. We love them so, so much. We are always one click away, whether it's a phone call, text message, email, pulling us aside on a Sunday morning. We are always here for them. I pray for the leaders that you give us the words we need to speak to the students, God. I pray that you allow us to be a comforting figure to any students who might be struggling. And God, I pray that you be with leaders. If there's someone in their life who happens to be bullying them, or they happen to be a bully to somebody else, God, I pray you be with the leaders as well, because this is a problem not just for the students, but our leaders as well. I pray that you keep each and every one of us safe, and as we go through our weeks, just remind us how much you love us, and to remind us what Paul says to do, to love our enemies, show them compassion, and to not take revenge out on those people, and to use the gifts that you have given us, God. I pray for all of these things in your Son's matchless and holy name. Amen.